this goes for all three of you. When you're working out dialogue, do you talk? Do you have partners that you speak the dialogue to and make sure that it feels natural, or do you wait until you're down the road and let other people read it and see what comes back? Start with you, Alice.
Well, I never speak my dialogue to anyone. It kind of just it generally just sort of flows. I think at times I talk it to myself, but I think that dialogue actually should be somewhat heightened form of speech anyway. So it doesn't really, I mean, I find that when you try to make it sound too natural, that it sort of loses some it sort of loses certain tension. Its it loses its cinematic quality, if that makes any sense. So
I mean, I would say that, you know, dialogue on the page as opposed to dialogue that is going to be spoken by actors is quite different. You know, there's certainly writers who wrote dialogue that was great on the page, but if, you know, Fitzgerald, for example, but there were various screen adaptations of his work where they just did it verbatim, and the dialogue sounded terrible. It was really sort of, you know, stiff and overwrought. So I think you know, what Alice does reads well on the page and out of actors' mouths. And I don't know about my own. I just know that, you know, when I rarely read it aloud. Mostly I just hear it in my head.
and
Is any of you?
say, sorry,
Go ahead.
I also want to say that over the years, that my dialogue, I used to really write a lot of it. Like I was so, you know, I was really influenced by like James Brooks and, you know, Nora Ephron to some extent. And I had come from playwriting. And I guess as I sort of continue to grow and evolve as a writer, I really write a lot less. And Edie and I just saw Oppenheimer yesterday, and that dialogue is like, there's so little of it, and it's I mean there's plenty of it, but the lines of dialogue are very, very short. They really just communicate what they need to communicate, and they're out. And so I think that's so much harder to do than it sounds, but I think it's really essential actually in film and television. And it's challenging to not write a lot of dialogue.
Yeah. Eden, I saw you shaking your head that you don't read your dialogue aloud. Is that, did I interpret your head movement properly?
Yeah, no, I sometimes I'll say a line out loud to myself, just to make sure it doesn't sound really fake sounding, or like a real person wouldn't say it. But I don't really, I kind of agree that like it doesn't have to necessarily work. Like with novels, I don't think the dialogue has to work off the page. I think it's much more important for like what my mom does, that it, you know, some scripts might be like beautifully written, but when you look at them, like when an actor tries to say it, it just sounds really, you know, like unnatural or stilted. You know, like there's a lot of movies where you could see that if you were reading it, you'd be like, wow, this is beautiful, like this is really profound. But when an actor says it, you're like, well, that's what a pretentious dork. You know, like you don't feel like it's real. But I think I don't think it matters as much to me. I think I always want my character's thoughts and words to feel human, but I don't need them to feel realistic necessarily. I don't have people talk out the dialogue with me, because honestly, I feel like that would be a little bit embarrassing.
Well, one of the things that came to mind as you were talking was I liked Norman Mailer's Tough Guys Don't Dance, but when he tried to make a movie out of it, the words from the page did not sit well in the mouths of the actors. Have you seen that movie, Eden?
No.
Oh,
I have not.
You all should show her that movie.
Yeah, there's some really beautiful clunky lines in there. I mean, that they're so bad they're good.